Hello, everybody. It's us again, the Horror Guys, here with episode 53.
Woohoo!
This will be the last episode that you will see or hear new in this decade. Well, technically, the decade.
The last episode of the decade.
2021 is, technically, but for practical purposes.
And if you haven't heard that joke yet, you will 3,000 more times before January 1st.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the last blank of the decade.
The last of the teens.
Well, this time we've got, believe it or not, movies.
Horror movies.
We've got good movies?
Horror
bad
movies? Well, a mix.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's always a mix.
It's always a mix.
Very rarely do we give 4 thumbs up.
Actually, I'm kind of a little bit mad about all these. I mean, I'm not hating any of them, but I'm not loving any of these. None of these I say, yes, I really, really liked that movie.
Okay, well, let's look at them and see what we got.
Yeah.
We start out with The Man-Made Monster from 1941, The Old Dark House remake in 1963, The Butcher coming out in 2020.
A movie from the future.
It is, pre-release. And Salo, or 120 Days of Sodom from 1975. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's go to it.
First, let's talk about Man-Made Monster from 1941, which was Lon Chaney Jr.'s first horror.
Yeah.
It was pre-Werewolf, pre-Wolfman, and this launched his career in horror films.
It was all right.
It was okay, yeah.
It
was okay.
I mean, a little on the upside of meh.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Good special effects, and Lon Chaney Jr. was very good acting.
Yeah.
All of them were decent cast. And, yeah.
Okay, from 1943, directed by George Wagner, written by Harry Essex and Sid Schwartz, starring Lionel Atwill, top billing.
Mm-hmm.
Second is Lon Chaney Jr. and Ann Nagel. 59 minutes.
It's a shorty.
Yeah,
it was.
Well, it was a dark and stormy night.
As it often is.
The bus slides in the rain and crashes into an electric pole. Dan McCormick is the lone survivor.
Dynamo Dan, the electrical man.
I
gave that away early,
You
didn't
did. He shows no signs of the electrocution that killed the driver and all the other passengers on the bus. And he explains that he's, who?
Dynamo Dan, the electrical man.
Yeah, who runs an act at the local carnival, where he sticks his finger in a light socket and gets a shock.
And does all kinds of electrical tricks. And the theory,
but he admits that they're tricks.
The actual exposure to electricity. Yeah. And the theory is that he built up kind of a resistance. And so when this hit the power line...
And he's in all the newspapers. He's like a local hero.
It's big news.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Lawrence goes home and talks to his daughter, June. He's soon headed off to a conference on electrobiology. He goes in the back room to his lab and sees Dr. Paul Regis doing an experiment. Regis believes that man is controlled by electricity and that he can develop a superior race of men whose only need will be electricity. No more food, no more hunger, just plug
electricity.
In.
Yeah.
Dr. Lawrence gives the "some things men were not meant to know" speech, and then calls Regis mad.
There's always one.
They disagree, but they're friendly about it.
Yeah.
You're mad, I tell you.
Mad. Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever. Let's go have a drink. Okay.
Mark, a newspaper reporter, comes to see June. He knows that Dan came to their house to see Dr. Lawrence and wants to know what's up, because he's enough of a celebrity now. They want to know where he is.
Mm-hmm. The paparazzi is following.
Dan needs a job because the carnival left town without him, and Dr. Lawrence offers him a job. He thinks maybe Dan has built up an immunity to electricity from repeated exposure in his act.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks Dan may hold the solution to accidental electrocution. Nobody else needs to be electrocuted again.
That's right.
Dan gets free room and board, and the 2 doctors get to experiment on him. Dan and June start hitting it off, and everything is great. Dan even teaches their dog to do tricks. The dog gets a lot of screen time.
Yeah. It's
I was expecting the dog to be all heroic and stuff.
No, not really.
Not too much.
No.
Just
a comic
not
foil.
Not comic relief. It's a cuteness relief.
Yeah.
While Dr. Lawrence is away at his conference, Dr. Riga starts doing more interesting experiments on Dan.
Yeah, things that they hadn't really agreed to. He takes things further.
Yeah, he was supposed to just be giving him minor shocks to build up his immunity.
Ends up giving him massive amounts of electricity.
He straps him into a machine and turns it on. We see on the readout that the radiation energy units, that's what they're called, radiation energy units.
And it's a great lab, an awesome lab with all the things that go bzzz and
Frankenstein
crackle
would
and
love it.
crackle and sparkle and yeah.
All the mad scientists have the best labs.
They do, yeah.
Well, the meter on the radiation thing goes way up. Dan goes to sleep during the procedure, but Dr. Regas tells him to wake up.
Kind of knocks him out.
Yeah,
He doesn't
yeah.
really go to sleep. Yeah.
Regas tells him to get up, and Dan obeys. Dan reaches for the family dog, and electricity sparks from his fingers.
Whoops.
I know my cats hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
Zap.
Well, this is a little more than that.
Doesn't kill the dog.
No.
This is not the invisible ray.
Yeah.
They repeat the experiment again over the next few days, each time increasing the voltage. Dan starts becoming addicted to the electricity. June starts worrying about Dan as he seems lethargic.
Yeah.
Truth is, he only cares about the electric now.
Well, and yeah, it's kind of like he runs down. It's not
Yeah.
like he's after a fix, like
It's
Some-
kind of the same thing.
well, but he gets all lethargic and slow and depressed and
I was going to say that
It's
it is
only-
treated a lot like a real addiction. He
kind
just
of.
doesn't pep up until somebody promises him more power.
Well, it takes more than the promise; it takes the actual power.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, Lawrence returns and notices that Dan's blood is very different than it used to be before he left town. And how that would happen, we don't know, because science. Regas messes with Lawrence's medication, and he ends up in bed. Dan is now sick, Lawrence is sick, and June starts getting suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Regas is ready for the final experiment, as high as the machine will go.
All the electricity.
Crank it to 11.
Dial it up to 11. Yeah.
It's way too much, and now Dan glows with raw electricity. Womp, womp,
Yeah, literally
womp.
glows.
Literally
Yeah.
glows.
It's a pretty neat effect. Yeah.
Regas puts Dan in a heavy rubber suit to insulate him and keep him fully charged.
And I read in the trivia that suit weighed 70 pounds.
It looked
That was
heavy.
big and clunky.
Lawrence comes in and Regas orders Dan to kill him. Regas does something to discharge Dan's power, and he stops glowing after he kills Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
June returns, and Dan admits killing Lawrence. I killed him, he said.
Well, he hypnotizes him into saying,
Yeah.
well, he didn't willingly do it, but
He was ordered to. And
he was
did it.
he was ordered to, and then he's
Because it
ordered,
makes him suggestible.
and
too.
then he's ordered to, when he's asked, just admit that he did it, and
Mhm.
then he's all hypnotized.
Dan is arrested, and the police question Regas about the experiments. The police question Dan, and he sticks to his confession.
I
He's
killed him.
Yeah, just like
Says
that.
it about like that.
I killed him.
I killed him.
He's soon found guilty and sentenced to death in the electric chair.
See, and I was kind of hoping they would actually get that far, and so we could see what happened when they tried that.
Well, they did. Finally, the day rolls around and the execution goes as planned, at least until they throw the switch.
Mm-hmm.
The power drain just won't stop.
Yeah.
Dan-
all the power.
All the
Yeah.
power. Dan forces the warden to walk him out of the prison. We're told he can't live more than 3 more hours
And
because
how-
his electricity is slowly draining.
And how do they know this? How do they know that? They wouldn't know that. And why the precise...
Regas would know it because he's been, seeing how long it takes to drain naturally, but none of these wardens or anybody would know that.
And suddenly everybody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how they would know that is unclear.
Mm-hmm.
Dan then steals some rubber boots, which will extend his time. He's not leaking it all into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Dan walks through the moors and returns to the laboratory. They got a big sign up that says, The Moors. Meanwhile, June confronts Regas, and he tells her everything with pride.
Mm.
He straps June down to the table, preparing to zap her too. Woman-made monster? Dan breaks in and kills Regas. Dan then carries June out into the swamp with police on his tail, and of course he's still womp, 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 glowing with his head.
Mm-hmm.
Dan then gets hung up on a barbed wire fence that drains all his power, and he dies.
Yeah. Tragic ending.
Game over.
Happy ending for her and the reporter, though.
And the reporter does nothing useful. Okay, well, Regas' plan is just plain silly. He wants to create a Superman, but Dan is just tired and lazy all the time until he gets supercharged.
Yeah, and it doesn't last.
This is not an improvement over needing food. Overall, the science here is atrocious, but the acting is good, even Lon Chaney, who was good enough that they later cast him in the upcoming film, The Wolfman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we said before, he doesn't seem like much of an actor later on. It seems like the peak of his career was between 1941 and 1945. And
after that,
he drank more
kind
and
of
more and more through all
phoned
that.
it in. Yeah.
Then he was just that old guy they put in movies.
I think alcoholism really took the edge off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing, like
Which
in
is a shame,
1943 or 4 with the Mummy.
Yeah, it's a shame because you could see in this,
he started out being
some
able
real
to
talent.
act. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So,
You want a remake?
yeah.
How about The Old Dark House?
Which is a Hammer film. And you think of Hammer, classic horror films, Dracula and Frankenstein and blood and horror and scary. And this was kind of like a slapstick comedy.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
Yeah, very, very comedic.
Well, the original Old Dark House was from 1932.
And that had a lot of comedy elements. I think this one even more so.
Was it? I don't know that it was really intended to be a comedy. It was just so hokey that it was laughable in a lot of cases. The 32 version.
I believe it was. Oh, the 32 version?
Yeah,
I
it was
believe
not
so.
meant. Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Well, they certainly played it up this time.
They really played it up.
So they took this 1932 Universal film and Hammer did their version in 63. Just like they did with Dracula and the Mummy and Frankenstein. They're copying everything and modernizing them. That was what they did. They made 60 versions of 30s movies.
Yeah, yeah.
And this one from 1963, directed by William Castle. And I think this was his first big movie, and he made many more for them. Written by Robert Dillon and J.B. Priestley. Stars Tom Poston, who I remember from The Newhart Show. That's about the only thing I've ever seen him in.
Yeah, that's right. He was on that.
He was in that all the time.
Yeah.
Robert Morley, who I've seen in other things, and Jeanette Scott. 1 hour, 26 minutes. Did you like it?
Yeah. Slightly more than meh.
If I'd have been 7 or 8,
I would have enjoyed it
really
more.
Fun. Yeah. As it was like kind of, really?
Kind of dated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it dated or is it just juvenile?
Or are we jaded or both? Or all three? I think it's dated, it's juvenile, and we're jaded.
Yeah. This is much more comedy than horror. But it takes place in a spooky old house and there's murder and so forth.
Old dark house, as a matter of fact.
The title comes on and it's all these haunted houses with ghosts in the windows. And you see that the title sequence is written by Charles Adams. Yeah.
Which that alone says a lot. It's Chaz Adams. Comedy, horror.
Horror comedy, yeah.
Horror comedy, yeah.
Well, Tom Penderell, a car salesman from America, goes to the casino and finds Casper Femme, a friend who has recently bought one of his cars. Femme loses a pile of money gambling and insists that Tom spend the weekend with him at Femme Hall. He explains that a casket has just been delivered there, and it's almost time, he says creepily. Casper flies home, literally flies on a plane, and Tom drives the car to Femme Hall.
Well, and you didn't tell the weirdest part of the setup, too. He's been visiting and rooming with Casper, except he's there
Tom is there
at night.
Nighttime.
Casper is there during the day. Casper's never there at night.
Yeah.
So they're sharing the apartment like on 12
like a one-bedroom apartment that they share.
And he doesn't know why Casper's never there at night. But
yeah, it's very strange.
But then he finds out. Yeah.
Well, the new car is basically destroyed by the time he gets there. Potholes and stuff falling on it, and it's all very comedic. He walks up to the door of the main house, knocks on the door, and falls through a trap door into the cellar. How many times have you fallen through a trap door?
Never have.
It happens a lot in these old movies. The entrance about as often as quicksand. The entrance doesn't work right, says Potiphar Femme.
Oh, it hadn't. He just fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This house is old. Old and dark, he explains. I love it when they fit the title in. He leads Tom into the study, where Casper lies in a coffin. He's dead.
He died an hour ago, and nobody's upset.
Well, they're really not, are they?
They're really not. No, nobody in the house really.
Yeah, he then meets Cecily Femme, who says Tom is very brave to come there. She warns him to leave before the others return. But it's too late since Uncle Roderick is at the door. He meets Casper's mother as well as Morgana, the sex-starved cousin who latches onto Tom like a leech. They all sit down and have a very awkward dinner in the leaky old dining room. And literally one guy's sitting there with
an umbrella at dinner.
Cecily explains that
it's a beautiful house, but it's really trashed. It's really run down and
it was probably a beautiful house 300 years ago.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah.
Cecily explains that there are 2 more people who didn't come to dinner. We don't know who they are yet.
No.
Tom asks why they all choose to live in this dumpy old leaky mansion. It's not that we want to stay at Fem Hall, Mr. Penderall. It's that we must. We must, explains the mother. Roderick then explains that the great pirate Morgan built the house and required in his will that all his descendants must live in the house to have any right to the fortune. Any member of the family who doesn't return to the house each night by midnight forfeits everything. Also, nothing in the house can change until the house dies. Suddenly, they all hear Casper's voice, but it turns out it's just a tape recording. You know, these old movies, not only the trapdoors, they always have these weird wills with all these oddball conditions.
Yeah.
Can wills get that specific anymore?
I don't know if
I'll give you all
can
my money,
anymore.
but you have to live in my house until the day you die.
I don't know why you couldn't. I don't know.
Who's going to check up on these things?
I don't know. Pay an attorney enough? I don't know. Yeah,
Well, there are numerous comedic encounters as Tom meets the various crazy family members one by one.
it's very Addams Family. I mean,
When did the Addams
Addams
Family TV show start? This was before that,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Soon, Tom goes wandering around and meets Casper, who is now up and walking around. Nope, this is actually Jasper, Casper's twin. Jasper and Casper. Jasper expects that he'll be next. He says that Uncle Roderick wants to kill them all off, so he will get the fortune.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan Fem then makes an appearance, but he's just a burly man who doesn't speak. Kind of looks like a pirate himself.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Midnight strikes, and Mother Agatha doesn't appear. They follow a trail of yarn to her dead body, because every scene she's been in, she's been knitting.
And yeah, that was pretty funny, actually.
And they find her body stabbed with her own knitting needles.
Yarn, the trail following all through the house, and then they get there, and she's literally got both needles protruding through her neck, and one of them says, "Oh, must have been murder." Like, no,
Worst suicide ever.
no kidding.
Well, soon Tom runs into one of Potiphar's collection. Turns out he collects hyenas. No, actually he collects lots of animals as he's building Noah's Ark in the backyard. Literally Noah's Ark,
Yep.
with all the animals.
With an animal collection.
He wants Tom and Morgana to join him in order to repopulate the earth. There's even a little cage with his and hers written on it.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan then chases Tom into quicksand. Betty is then rescued by Roderick. When they get back to the house, they find Jasper dead.
Mm-hmm.
Roderick soon follows, killed with his own booby-trapped gun. And there's some nonsense mixed in here about Roderick thinks that maybe Tom is a distant relative now all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Because he wound up at the house to spend the night.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there are relatives over in America too. But the real trick is with the will, the way it's set up. He hasn't spent any nights in this house.
So
he had no option to get anything.
He would have invalidated it by
He
not
could have
showing
been
up
a
at midnight.
brother and not counted.
Yeah.
Well, soon we find out who's behind the deaths, and Tom must find all the hidden dynamite before the house blows up. The end.
It's silly.
It's silly.
It's a silly movie.
There's murder, death, quicksand, and explosives. Trapdoors and quicksand.
Mm-hmm.
So it does have all the horror movie tropes, but this is a very 1960s comedy film. There's lots of running around and snarky one-liners, and none of the actors played even remotely straight.
No.
I would say this film would be fine for young kids. I mean, if they like, the Abbott and Costello horror movies, this is right up there with that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just too much slapstick and silliness for a grown-up, I think. I don't think too many people are going to really be into this one.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for something weird, it was color, wasn't it? It was color, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unlike the original.
Yeah.
They invented color since 1960.
Oh, they barely had sound on that first one.
Yeah. That was an early movie.
But if you're going to pick one of the two old Dark House, actually, I think there's a different one that we haven't seen yet.
I'd go with the original.
Yeah, so would I.
Yeah.
It was much better.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that had Boris Karloff in, like, the suit where he didn't talk.
And you can see where a lot of those tropes were first used in movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I heard Boris Karloff was offered a role in this, but he turned it down saying it was too silly.
Huh.
He's not really a comedy guy.
Yeah. Good for him.
A wise choice.
Yeah.
Well, we saw a short this week, didn't we?
We did.
called, surprisingly enough,
Santa.
yeah, and this was posted on
Christmas
Day on the blog.
Mm-hmm.
Santa from 2019. Directed by Alexander Henderson, written by Markel Coulomb, starring Dylan Curtis, James Salzman, Ali George, and Adam Cabrera. 6 minutes and 58 seconds. Why not splurge and call it 7 minutes?
The kid has a really cool Batman lamp on his bedstay.
We see the kid in bed,
headboard.
and
Yeah.
he wants this Batman lamp.
It's the bat signal lamp. It's the spotlight.
Yeah.
It's a little miniature.
Big.
Yeah. Anyway.
You don't need to get any Christmas gifts. You just want a bat
That was
signal.
the most noteworthy thing that I have to say about it. Cool props.
Okay.
No, it was good. Everything about it was good.
We start out with a little boy praying for forgiveness and lots of presents before going to bed. We see a very evil-looking Santa Claus thing out in the front yard. Ho, ho, ho. And then Mom says, remember, he knows when you're awake. Time to go to bed, Christmas Eve. Well, Mom soon winds up dead, and our hero is hiding under the sheets in his bedroom. Well, the creepiest Santa ever roams the house. Except, no, wait, Mom's making cookies in the kitchen.
It was all just a dream.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Or was it?
You will have to watch and find out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this Santa Claus has claws. This little film picks out all that is creepy with Christmas and runs with it.
Yeah.
It's pretty short, so there's not really a whole story here, but it's all good. Check it out.
Yep.
And even worse, the monster, the thing that creeped me out the most was when he wakes up in the morning, opens his eyes, and his mom's standing there in the corner watching him.
Yeah.
Who does that?
That was kind of creepy.
It wasn't meant to be creepy. It was just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 minutes, thumbs up. YouTube link in the show notes. Take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if you search on YouTube for Santa, you're going to not find it.
Yeah. There's a lot of Santas out there. Yeah. Just the word Santa on YouTube. Yeah.
Well, just like there's so many Santas, there's a lot of butchers on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
But we're looking at
Butcher. The Butcher, which is 2019-ish, 2020.
Yeah, it's available now. You can find it on most major streaming services.
But isn't the official release next year, or is that how this one had an unusual?
It's weird how these things work.
Release.
They put a 2020 copyright date on it, but it is available now.
Yeah,
I guess you could do that. We saw I don't know, some vampire movie last year in December that had a 2019 date.
Yeah.
What was it? Crucible of the Vampire?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Saw that before it came out too. Okay, well this one is an indie film directed by Michael Moutsatsos, written by Michael Moutsatsos, and stars Michael Moutsatsos, along with Maria Olsen and Noel Jason Scott. 1 hour, 15 minutes.
Meat.
Did you like it?
I liked it more than I disliked it.
Okay. Much like meat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Meat is good food. Yeah. Delicious meaty credits. The opening credits are all this preparation of meat. Yes.
Well,
if you're a vegetarian or if you're squeamish about the sight of raw meat and blood, this one's not for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
There's a lot of meat in this.
It's not even that much fake gore. It's more like real meat.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a mix. Yeah, there's plenty of fake gore, but yeah, there's actual meat. Yeah.
Well, we're told that this was a reenactment of the mass serial killer Thaddeus Hyatt, known as the Butcher.
The Butcher.
He killed over 100 people in Los Angeles in 1995.
And gave everybody mad cow.
Moo.
Moo.
Well, we see a guy in medical scrubs holding a drill, talking to 2 tied-up prisoners. He puts down the drill and starts recording the 2 with a phone. He then drills the guy in the back of the head. He then cuts the girl's throat and lays them side by side in a dark place.
Juicy and bloody. Yeah.
Credits roll.
Good special effects. I thought they were pretty realistic. Yeah.
As the credits roll, we see a real butcher cutting up meat throughout the credits.
Mm-hmm.
We then flash back to Montana in 1970, where Thaddeus's parents return home from a night out to find him eating raw meat on the kitchen floor. And I'm pretty sure it turned out that was his own father.
Raw meat. It was
his father.
It was,
or maybe the babysitter.
It was a person.
I think it was
the babysitter.
Maybe
they were coming back home.
It was yummy.
Yeah. Anyway,
back in 1995, Thaddeus beats a guy to death in his motel room. He then returns home and gets the shakes. Then he has a vision of his long-dead mother, who isn't too thrilled with how her son turned out.
And good makeup on the long-dead mother.
She tells him to inject his blood into his victims to spread his disease around. Well, it turns out that Thaddeus has mad cow disease, and he wears a cow mask sometimes when he attacks people. The mad cow explains the shaking systems. Denny Crane. Yeah.
Who also had mad cow.
People who have seen that will know.
Thought he had mad cow. Yeah.
Okay, so then we shift over to another guy. Mr. Cremator, Mr. Cremator, talks to Mr. Khan, who is tied up. Are you a gambling man? Khan must call heads or tails, and Cremator flips the coin. He guesses wrong, and Cremator turns on the electric carving knife. Bzzz. We then find Thaddeus carrying body parts, presumably those of Mr. Khan. Thaddeus goes into the restaurant and bakes the meat into various dishes.
To serve to his patrons.
We see another foreign tourist. At this time, we notice that all the victims are foreigners of some kind.
He has an international menu.
He sees a foreign tourist go into a building and then gets chained up in the back of the restaurant. Turns out Thaddeus is planning to make a great Ecuadorian meal. Thaddeus then explains that he's cooking dishes from Japan, Greece, China, and Italy for Lisa's birthday next week, and he wants all authentic meats. The rest of the film revolves around the antics and drama that occurs during the preparation of this meal. Meat. Yeah, I like Chinese and Japanese and Greek, but generally not the people.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of real guts and gore used here. Some of it is just restaurant footage, but others are bits of real butcher work. The premise that he needs all of these international tourists for the exotic local flavors is kind of a neat idea. The sound in this film has some issues.
Yeah, you're right.
In the first scene where the two people are tied to a chair, it sounded like it was recorded in somebody's closet.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Definitely visuals better than audio.
Yeah, a lot of the other scenes don't sound too much better. So the sound is kind of sketchy.
I'd kind of forgot about that.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a little iffy sometimes.
Other than the sound issues, I'd say it's a pretty fair independent gore fest with acting and direction about on par with most other indie horror films.
Yeah.
If you like cannibalism and gore, give it a shot.
Yeah. It's delicious.
Meat. Well, speaking of cannibalism and gore,
we saw a foreign movie, didn't we?
Yeah, there wasn't really. Yeah, well, okay.
No, it was,
I'm not sure if it was cannibal. Well, I bet there probably was.
No, I don't think there's cannibalism in it.
Pretty much everything. That might have improved things.
Lots of butt stuff, but no cannibalism.
Salo, or 120 Days of Sodom.
Butt obsessed in this movie.
120 Days of Sodom. What do you? Of course, it's
going
to be butt upset. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I get it.
From 1975, it is Italian,
and it's actually. Oh, can I tell?
I don't know.
Actually, it was actually adapted from the book 120 Days of Sodom, written by the Marquis de Sade in 1785.
Somebody who's famous, whose claim to fame is torture.
And the book wasn't widely published until 1905. And then here we are with a modern telling of the book, retelling or whatever.
Well, it's a modern retelling. It takes place at the very end of World War II, so I don't know if modern exactly, but
World War II Italy. Okay, more modern than 1785.
Yeah. Directed by Pier Paolo Pasolini, written by him and Sergio Citti, and the Marquis de Sade. Starring Paolo Bonicelli, Giorgio Cataldi, Umberto Paolo Quintavalle, and runtime's 1 hour 57 minutes. So it's fairly long, and it is subtitled. Did you like it?
I liked it more than disliked it. But I don't know, is it really a horror movie?
Would you want to be in this situation?
Well, no, but I don't know. It just didn't seem to really...
Can you imagine someone going in there and being horrified? Yeah, it's a horror movie.
Okay, I guess, yeah.
It's a different kind of horror movie, though.
It's all people, though. There's no monsters or supernatural or anything. Which still can be horror.
Grotesque.
I know.
The Bunny Game.
I know.
A Serbian film. No monsters in those either. It's all just people.
It's all, still horror.
Well, I'm pretty sure this is going to conclude our section, conclude our little mini-series on torture films.
Banned movies and movies that are...
I have had enough
movies that are
torture
not
for a
shown
while.
in some countries because they so...
Oh, this is banned in lots of countries still, and
yeah. No rating. I mean, they couldn't rate this anything. No rating system would fit this into their rating system.
They would have to make a new system.
Yeah.
Well, we start out in northern Italy at the end of World War II in the town of Salo. Salo, that's where the name comes from.
Uh-huh.
A group of guys with machine guns stop a trio of bicyclists and then take them away. Another boy is taken from his mother. A group of soldiers then spit on and round up a bunch of girls, and it turns out that the president, the duke, the bishop, and the magistrate all plan to marry each other's daughters to ensure their loyalty to one another. These guys are just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
All the captured boys are lined up in front of these men. Some of them are chosen, and they're told to expose themselves, and the crowd looks on. A number of boys and several girls are chosen, and it appears that they're intended for some kind of sexual slavery. It's wartime, so nobody's going to miss these young people. They're read the rules concerning the upcoming orgies and what will be expected of them. Orgies?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sound so bad, does it?
It's pretty bad.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Everyone, the 4 men and all the young people, are now in the room of orgies. And an old woman comes in and tells the story of her first sexual encounter in order to set the stage for the party.
And the stories she tells.
Oh, those stories.
Yeah.
A man leaves the room with one of the young men and later storms back in, demanding the boy be punished for pulling away from him. Later, they have a big dinner served by naked girls. Then they all sing, just like as if it were a big sleepover. One girl screams and runs away, so they cut her throat and dump her in the middle of the room. A young couple, is chosen to be married, and the men watch them consummate it.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, in the way it just jumped from thing to thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like this one section where I have notes. Okay, they're having dinner, and then nude coffee girls come in. So they're serving coffee in the nude. One of them gets tripped and immediately sodomized because while she's in the kneeling position, she's forced to stay down. And then one of the leaders, he pulls his pants down and just runs around the room showing his ass to everybody. And then he kneels down next to her. And some other guy runs over and immediately sodomizes him. So the two of them are getting sodomized side by side. And then they just kind of spontaneously break into this kind of war memorial heroic song. And then somebody brings in a mannequin, and they set that up in a chair in front of everybody. And it's anatomically correct, so they can teach the girls how to properly do hand jobs. And then they have a scene of that going on, and it just goes from boom, 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 from like act to act, and and then next thing you know, somebody else is pulling their pants down, or somebody else is
next week we'll have monsters. I promise you.
Yeah, it's just a lot of nudity, a lot of sex, but it's a lot of forced stuff.
Well, this whole thing takes, like the name says, it takes place over 120 days. So this is a time considered time.
They had to cram it in. Yeah.
Oh, how long have you been waiting to say that line?
Cram it in. Yeah, they do.
Over the next hour or so of film time, we see the group of young people narrow down and eventually are left with a group of more or less submissive sex slaves. There are scenes of debasement and cruelty intertwined with the madam, Senora
and some
Magius.
of them do get killed, too.
Yeah.
They're serious about it. They, if they try to run or get away or anything, some of them get killed.
Yeah, the scenes of debasement and cruelty are intertwined with the Madam's weird old stories and experiences, and they're pretty messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Then things start getting a little twisted.
A little?
The madam tells a tale where she had to eat one of her clients' excrement.
Hey, that's a good idea. Let's all do that.
One of the men forces one of the girls to do the same. Soon after, all the rest, including the men who are in charge, have to eat a plate of poop as well. Mm. And they bring it out in this giant serving thing. And it looks sort of like a big plate full of sausage at first.
They collect it in everybody's, what do you call those? The pans.
The chamber pots.
Chamber pots. Yeah, they collect all the chamber pots, put them together in a big bowl.
And the ones who wouldn't poop in the pot get punished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the butcher made me hungry. This one turned me off.
So there's a coprophagia scene. Well, a couple times. A couple times they're eating poop.
Coprophagia?
Coprophagia.
You looked that up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Say yes.
Yes.
The remainder of the film is then filled with torture, degradation, and death. There's not really any gore until about the last 10 minutes, and by that time there's some really cringeworthy stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's slow moving, and the scenery and cinematography are very good. Everything is bright and colorful, but still has a dingy, war-weary look to it. This all takes place in a dark old house, but everything is very well lit.
Cool house.
And
actually.
everything
it's run down, but it's
yeah.
very cool. It's huge and yeah.
Big old mansion.
Yeah.
And everything is sharp and clear on screen. Salo is a real town in Italy, often associated with Mussolini and his fascist government, and it seems likely that this is all, at least partially, a metaphor for the atrocities that were committed there. Although in reality, this is partially based on a book by the Marquis de Sade. And there was no real end to the story, and the four villains get away with everything.
Mm-hmm.
There were no character arcs, no comeuppances, no lessons learned, no regrets. The bad guys did bad things to a bunch of innocent young people because they had fun doing it. The end.
Yeah. It just, they were 4 sick guys with unlimited power, and so they...
Yeah, that's pretty much
stuff.
it.
Yeah, and almost like they were, bored and, running out of ideas, so let's look, what's the next outrageous thing we can do?
Well, that do to top everybody else.
Well, that was fun, but, they, are not satisfied,
if we ever get bored enough,
Mm.
remind me not to eat a big plate of poop for excitement.
No, I don't think, no matter how bored I was.
How bored you got to be for that to look good?
Yeah, you didn't mention the hats. The hats were awesome. The costuming.
Hats.
Yeah, European and 1940s. Yeah, the women especially, but the guys too. Lots of cool hats, cool costumes, cool. Very stylish, unusual. Anyway, I noticed the hats.
Okay.
Lots of hats. Cool
I usually
hats.
notice hats.
Yeah.
But that's our show.
That's our show.
Check us out at horrorguys.com for written reviews of all this stuff and news and updates. Get ready for next week, because next week we'll have...
more movies?
You betcha. 1941, Horror Island. Curse of the Mummy's Tomb from 64. Kwaidan, International from 1964. And a surprise movie from 2019 or 2020. Haven't decided yet.
Haven't seen any of these.
It's not going to be a torture film.
Okay, good.
Check out our Twitter feed at Horror Bulletin and find our group Horror Guys Podcast on Facebook. Links to both of those in the show notes. And
I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.